And welcome to Witch Hat Chats. And come on in and sit for our spell. We're sponsored by Evermoving We Rise, Moonlight Potions and Charms, and Saul Ravencraft, Wizard for Hire. I am your goddess host, Miss Nikki Kirby, and our co-host, Saul Ravencraft, is somewhere around. Where are you hiding, Saul?
Here I am, Nikki. Good to see you. Good to be anywhere right now. It's the season. There's a lot going on, and I don't mind it, but it's been taxing. Uh, I'm a bear of very little brain right now.
Well, you're supposed to be a bear of jolly, supposedly. You're supposed to be a lot fatter than what you are.
Well, there's ways to adjust that.
Or actually, these days, you're actually supposed to be buff, supposedly. That's what Santa Claus is supposed to be, isn't he?
Yeah, well, good luck with that.
What's the matter? You don't go to the gym like 20 times a day?
No, no, I don't. I don't, which I know is a fault, but uh, I gotta, I gotta persist. Maybe in the next life, I'll do it all right.
In the next life.
Yeah.
All right, all right. Probably in the next life, they'll have a way of us not having to go to the gym. We'll just sit there and watch it like they did on the Jetsons.
There you go. There you go.
That would be nice. I don't know, though. How could you absorb all that? Well, technically, you could absorb all that energy because I notice, when you sit there and you talk to people, you can absorb their energy a lot of times when you go through and talk to people on chat sometimes. But anyway, I digress.
That's all right.
You know how I do. I go off on these little tangents sometimes.
Absolutely.
Ah, so I see somebody coming down our trail.
Is that the door?
I saw. It's Ginger Chandler, the author of Seek Dragons, Connection to Dragon Energy and Magic. She's dropping by to see us. How are you doing, Ginger?
Hey, good morning to both of you. I'm doing great, thank you.
Awesome, awesome. And so the dragons are treating you well?
The dragons have been very good to me. Yes, I have to admit that. Indeed, they have.
Awesome, awesome. And so, you're just in time actually for our divination today.
Oh, well, there we go. So we do a divination, a recognition, and affirmation. It depends on the day as to exactly what we get. And today we say, your life does not get better by chance; it gets better by change.
Oh, that's deep. So Saul, since you have the long beard of wisdom, not of anciency, you get to go first to tell us what that means.
Well, fair enough, fair enough. So last night I actually did I was doing tasseomancy for a corporate event, and it was challenging. It all had to be very, very rapid fire. So I feel very funky today. But sometimes that's the way. And it's been interesting doing these kinds of events to find that I can be in different modes. I love doing a deep dive with somebody, but it's also nice to know that I can just do it. And there were a lot of signs of transformation. A lot of people's readings showed thresholds and transformation and change and that kind of thing. Now, what I didn't realize as I was doing this, and afterwards I said, I don't know what's going on with these people. But I kept seeing this coming up over and over again. And the company had just gone through a series of layoffs throughout the company and a lot of transformation as to what people's future was going to be. And so over and over, we're talking about that caterpillar becoming the butterfly, the wings emerging, the need to allow yourself to become. And we're not supposed to be the same thing forever. We're supposed to evolve over and over and over. Butterfly is not as good a metaphor as the phoenix
Hmm.
because the phoenix reaches the end of the cycle, it burns itself up, and then it rises from its own ashes. And I think that if you're doing it right, you go through transformations at least half a dozen times in your lifetime, sometimes more. All right, it really depends on what's going and how boldly you embrace the path. But yeah, no, what's that definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Yeah.
We gotta become. At least that's my perspective.
You want to add anything to that, Ginger?
Well, the first thing that I thought of was just all the change that we're anticipating for this country, our country, in the coming, not too long. Here in a couple of months, we'll have a new administration, and that'll be. I think a lot of people are anticipating thresholds and hoops to jump through at that point. So on a large level, I mean, it's definitely there, and on a personal level, as Saul just said, a lifetime of transformation, it's not always comfortable. But I think that's kind of why we have our allies and our magical family to help guide us through that.
Well, with me, yesterday I was at a coaching session, and she took me on a what do they call them? Um, it just went out of my mind. A meditation, and to talk to yourself 20 years in the future.
Mm,
And it was really interesting because 20 years in the future, of course, you want to be totally different. You want to be a better person 20 years in the future. You don't want to be the same person that you are, and you really don't want to be screwed up. Okay. You want to be, you really want to be a better
right.
person, right? Right. So, 20 years in the future, I was totally at peace, and so you go 20 years in the future, and of course it's really, really quick because the sessions are very, very, short and sweet and simple to the point. And so um she told me, a couple questions to ask. And one of the questions to ask was, what can I do to get from where I am now to where I will be in 20 years? What's the one thing I can do? And she said, let go. Just let go. That was it. Nothing else. Let everything go. Just let it go. And after I got out of that session and everything, I made a major, major decision. And after I made that decision, I actually felt better. I felt better and I'm happy about it. And I've been happier ever since I made that decision. And I've made several other decisions that I know are not going to make other people happy, but I'm actually happier about that decision.
Right.
So, um, with it going to do about, your life does not get better by chance, it gets better by change. That is true. And the thing about it is change is not always going to be good because as I have said before on this show and at every single place I teach, and people have heard it enough. I know Saul has heard it all the time. Change is something that is not always nice. It's not something that we always like. We certainly, some people don't certainly like what has happened with our country in particular, as Ginger and I have had this discussion before we started to film. But change is always necessary so we can move forward. And if we could schedule change, we would always call up and reschedule it because nobody wants to schedule change. It's kind of like a dentist appointment. Do we want to go to the dentist? I don't. I'm sorry. I do not want a drill in my mouth. I do not want you to be picking in my mouth. Okay. I don't want you anywhere in my mouth. Period. I got sensitive teeth. I really don't want you in my mouth. Period. Okay. I'm just one of those people. Just like a doctor. I don't want to go to the doctor. Who wants to go to the doctor? Nobody really wants to go to the doctor, right? So what do? We pick up the phone and we reschedule, right? And then when that time comes again, what do? We pick up the phone and we reschedule again until we get to the point to where, oh, we'll just call you whenever. And we never call them back, correct? Well, change will get to that point, and then change will say, well, the hell with this, and it's just going to do it.
Yep.
So that's just the way it is. So we just might as well go ahead, get it over with, and see how the pieces are going to lie. And just try to deal with it the best way that we can. And try to respond to it instead of react to it.
Mm. Yep. Good point.
And that's going to be probably most challenging for a lot of us is because we have a lot of um, emotions that we have not dealt with, especially from the previous year. Um, but we need to remember that that person on the other side is a human being, just like we are. And they have emotions, they have needs, they have a lot of things that we have too. And they need to be valued just like we need to be valued. And we need to sit down and just have a conversation and find a common ground with the other person and start there. Because just because that person may not have agreed with you on one issue doesn't mean that that person is a lousy person or a bad person or a person that should never have been deal with. Okay, you have to be able to cooperate. Our country needs to be able to heal, and I think that's going to be probably the hardest challenge that's going to be coming up for our country. And But it takes all of us to be able to do it. We can't just sit here and say, oh, that's a government's job to do it. I'm sorry, if we rely on our government to do it, we're screwed. We're absolutely screwed because all they do is just argue among themselves. We need to be the adults and do it ourselves. And there's my 2 cents. There we go.
Fair enough.
Alrighty then. So let's talk about some dragon magic, shall we?
Let's talk Dragon Magick. Yeah.
All right, Ginger. So how did you get into dragon magic?
Oh wow. How much time do we have? No, I'm just kidding. Well, I think like for most people these days, even if you're consider yourself a veteran dragon magic practitioner, most of us started our lives just loving dragons. Had nothing to do with magic or ritual or spells or anything like that. Um, there's a fairly large group of people apparently in the world, not all of them necessarily pagan or neo-pagan, but who these days we love dragons. It's a big old dichotomy to what we had, 500 years ago. Uh, in most of recent history, dragons and legend, even the few historical writings that we have from, Marco Polo and different travelers, they were feared. They were feared. They were something to be feared. When the Christianity became the dominant religion, taking over from the neo or actually pagan practices, not neo-pagan. That's us. Um, that dragons became even the devil. Other than just being evil, they were the devil. They needed to be slain. They were demanding all these sacrifices and, really painted into the corner of a complete villain. So, I'd say it's a pretty recent thing that there's a lot of us who have been like, well, May, are you sure about that? Are you sure they're evil and Satan and all that kind of stuff? So the image, the of dragons that are, if not friendly, at least not killer dragons, is fairly new. And there's been lots of literature now and lots of movies, lots of TV shows in the pop culture that have helped feed this. I mean, obviously, you look at the shows like House of the Dragon and, Game of Thrones. And I mean, there's just been so many, say in the last 30 years, where the dragons are your ally. They're still dangerous. You still got to respect them, but it's becoming firmly planted, I think, in the modern mind that dragons are not the devil. They are not the villain. And I've watched that happen, in my lifetime. So I've always been fascinated by them. I totally agreed with the fact that I didn't think that they were killer dragons. They were gonna, murder me or take me as a sacrifice. And then when I began to walk the path of the goddess, 25 years ago or so, um, it kind of naturally came into it. And at the time, there wasn't a lot about it. I didn't know any groups. I didn't know any other practitioners that were, practicing dragon magic. But there were a few things. There were a few things out there, and I'm also really, being an Arthurian priestess is also on my magical resume, and so that's how the dragons first kind of came to me through the Pendragon myth, through the symbol of, the chief dragon, the Pendragon, and that took me down a historical journey of researching all of that. So, but it didn't really become a practice like rituals, spells, meditations, probably until about 15 years ago. And again, there still wasn't a lot out there. DJ Conway had a couple of books, and I just ate those up. And it was a really interesting journey, and it still is. There's still not a lot of stuff out there.
Right.
Um, but that's kind of the long part of how this all started for me, anyway.
I think one of the most powerful things that was done to suppress dragons was to make them fictional,
Oh, yeah,
right? I
yeah,
I
Yeah,
think if you talk to a typical person, you would find that the dragons for them are an interesting idea, but pretty much the same as Spider-Man.
yeah,
right, right.
yeah.
And the thing I always thought, especially within, you know, the pagan community, they would turn around and they would say, well, I practice fairy magic, but dragon magic really doesn't exist. And I'm like, what? You believe in fairies, but you don't believe in dragons? I mean, what's that? Really? It really doesn't make sense to me. Um, because I grew up always seeing dragons. I was born in the year of the dragon, and they were always around me my entire life. It was something that not only was fascinating for me, but it was kind of part of who I was. Um, their energies, their knowledge, their um, to me, they were very selective of who they actually talked to. It wasn't somebody who they would just go and randomly speak with. Dragons don't automatically go up to somebody and just say, "Hey, I'm going to talk to you and start teaching you this." They are very, very selective of who they actually talk to.
Right.
And I think because of that, that's one reason why there's not a lot of books and stuff like that published. And people don't like it because, well, I've been asking for a dragon guide and nobody comes to me, and I'm sitting there trying not to say, well, that's because they don't want you, honey.
I snapped
Right.
my
Um,
fingers 3 times. Where's my dragon?
Yeah, yeah. It's in not so much in Year of the Magical Dragon because that's more of a book of rituals, but in Seeking Dragons, I kind of address that directly. These are I really admire folks who work with the Fae, with the fairy. I personally do not. I haven't delved really deeply into that and probably won't
mm,
this time around. But you have to really respect these ancient energies that have dealt with human beings on so many different levels for so many years. And human beings in general, you know, just like us, if you have a bad experience with somebody, if you become vilified, if you're called the villain of the universe, then you might not be real keen on dealing with human beings. They're kind of fickle. We just don't know about you folks. So yeah, you got to be real respectful and you have to be patient. And something that RJ Stewart said to me a long time ago in one of his workshops was the power of offerings, how simple it is. And if you're consistent with your offerings and sincere in your offerings, then it'll happen. It will
right.
happen, but there's no time frame on it. So you just got to sit back and let these mighty ancient creatures, um, it's in their court.
Right.
So, and like you said, you may not, at least at that time, they may not want to work with you at that time. Maybe you need to go do something or experience something. And that's a tough one for us humans because we want it like Saul just said, we want it now.
Mm-hmm.
So big lesson for magical practitioners. It's not just going to happen for you.
Right, because I mean, you were saying that, they were always villainized. And me,
Yeah.
I used to cry for the dragon. I really did. I used to really cry for the dragon because I mean, how would you like it if somebody just kicked in your door and killed you and stole all your stuff?
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
That's the
And
way I always saw it. And I'm like, really? Are we really going to go there?
yeah,
Are we
there
really going to go there?
in some of the ancient myths, if we go to the Norse, which is one of my favorite areas to work with and magically and just for fun, the dragons had a lot to say to us, and there was some wisdom in their words, and it just got forgotten. It got nicely squashed down into the dirt, and it's something that you have to go look for.
Right.
It's not going to land in your mailbox.
Right. Right. And with that, we are going to go to our commercials and listen to our wonderful sponsors, and we will be right back with Chat Chats. So stay tuned. Anybody can tell you what is on a tarot or oracle card. What matters is seeing beyond what others may not be able to see and help the client to uncover what lies in the mist. What do readings from Moonlight Potions and Charms do? Wednesday, I did this ancestor reading, and it was an amazing reading. And it was a detailed reading. And I remember talking to this customer's ancestors, and it was so delightful. And he wanted some questions to be answered about the magic in his family because he didn't know. And his family was mostly like most of our families are. You know how everything is like hush hush when it comes to the magic in his family. And he wanted to know who can he actually talk to about the history of the magic in his family. And I was able to give him specifically who he can go to talk to about that. What particular deity he can actually go to be able to help him with this. And it was just an amazing reading, and talking to his ancestors, they were such a delight, and they told me so much about this customer. It was just an absolutely wonderful reading for him, and I was just so happy to be able to give him this wonderful reading. It's really amazing to be able to give people these readings, these products that's really going to help them, and be able to give back to the community, because this is what Moonlight Potions and Charms is about. We want to help you to embrace the power of your own magic. That is what we are all about. It's to help you to do that. Book now and allow our wonderful staff to take care of your spiritual reading needs. And there is so much more in our Wicked store to help you to embrace the power of your own magic. So come on in to Moonlight Potions and Charms at www.moonlightpotionscharms.com and discover the wicked things that ignite the magical passion in you. Have you heard? The King of the Crossroads, Papa Legba, has graciously opened the roads, paving the way for the Papa Legba Altar on the Go to be nominated as Outstanding Product of the Year in the 2024 Witchcraft and Occult Media Awards. Makes Papa Legba Altar on the Go stand out? Complete traveling altar kit. Everything you need for sacred space is right at your fingertips, all neatly arranged in a mystical painter's pail. And it's compact and convenient. A perfect, powerful temporary altar, whether you're a modern nomad, a military soul on the move, or a wanderlust-stricken traveler. It also has additional space for the personal touch. As customization is a key to your spiritual journey, the Papa Legba Altar on the Go leaves room for you to infuse your unique energy. Moonlight Potions and Charms and Papa Legba invites you to join the spellbinding spectacle at the 2024 Witchcraft and Occult Media Awards. Cast your vote for the Papa Legba on the Go as the Outstanding Product of the Year. Your support fuels the magic. Go to https://rb.gy/PC3F11 to cast your vote. Remember, your altar is not just a space, it's a step in your magical journey. Explore the depths of your inner self by visiting Moonlight Potions and Charms at mpcmagic.com. Be ready to embrace the power of your own magic. Have you wondered what spirituality is? Spirituality is limitless, as it does not contain any boundaries on beliefs or practices. Spirituality's most important component is personal experience and allows one to explore it freely. Evermoving We Rise is a spiritual moving tradition, as our name is our lifestyle because we are persistently rising and moving forward. We realize that everyone's spiritual journey is extremely personal, but more easily traveled with reinforcement. We'll teach you to become friends with your shadow, emerge your authentic self, and give you time and space to develop your own spirituality. And when situations bump back, you'll have the entire community behind you, as we are a magical family who work to sustain each other. Discover the benefits of working within a society dedicated to helping you grow on your personal path. Visit us on our website, Linktree, or Facebook page and discover why we don't fit in the box.
Welcome back to Witch Hat Chats. I am Saul Ravencraft. I am here with Miss Nikki Kirby and Ginger Chandler. We are talking about dragons, real dragons, not cartoon dragons, not fantasy book dragons, but the reality of dragons. And I'll admit that for me, I've not had any personal connection with dragons. They are still an idea for me. They're not something I reject. They're not something that I disbelieve. I'm not judging you two because you've had dragon connections.
Oh, we don't care.
But but it's not something that has really opened up to me. I've been pulled in other directions, and I admit
Right.
that I'm part of that indoctrination that dragons aren't real, right? That was the way I was raised, and I just haven't had space in my world to open myself personally to going deeper with that. And like you said, even if I wanted to, it might not happen. It's not up to me. Yeah, they are their own beings. What do you say to someone who, I mean, if they just reject, I know, but someone who's kind of on that edge, that they want to make this kind of connection, but they're struggling with this idea that it could really happen.
Well, yeah, I think as magical practitioners, we work with energy all the time, and most of the beings, God, goddess, watch, keepers of the watchtower, whatever your particular path might be, it's all energy.
Mhm.
Nothing is coming into your circle or your ritual or sacred space that, well, maybe I should say, for me, I've never had the experience of something solid coming into my circle or ritual space and presenting itself in such a way that I can never have a doubt, oh my God, that actually happened.
Oh, that would be
Um,
cool.
it would be cool. It would be very cool. Um, but it's energy. And I've never expected to run up on a real dragon, a physical flesh and bone dragon out in our world. That's never been an expectation of mine. But I do believe that they are energetic. They are energy creatures. They have evolved. They have moved up the rung of spiritual evolution, and in my mind, the only way you can connect with them is in an energetic sense. So, if you say that it's just not real, I can't work with it, I would say, hey, you're probably not ready to, but everything else that you work with magically is also energy. So, it's possible.
Right.
Well,
And I think that
mm,
that's something that we just need to remind ourselves of. I know, I've told everyone before I got involved in all this to prove it wasn't true, and went way down the rabbit hole. And one of the thresholds I had to get through myself was this this expectation in my smug skepticism. I knew that anything that I couldn't see and touch and record could not be real. And no matter what we're talking about in a magical practice, you really have to be open to the unseen.
Yeah.
yep, yep,
You have to be. I mean, I mean, even offerings that we make. If you hung around after you left your offering for the Fae or whomever you're leaving it for, you're probably not going to see it consumed by anything. You're probably going to see it consumed by nature in a way that is a form of worship, for however you look at that, ancestors, energy beings, whatnot. Um, Perhaps what folks who really don't think that dragon energy is a real thing, maybe the first step is first accepting that it's even possible. You got to get over that impossible, big, big, tall fence. And then take a look at, well, who are you talking to when you're in ritual? Who are you? Who are your allies? Who are your god and goddesses? The face that you have chosen to worship, because like I said, they're probably not going to show up at the front door. There are other ways you sense them. And dragon energy is the same way. There's nothing different about that. The way of experiencing it has to be something other than touch and see,
yeah. And the thing about it is, when it comes to any type of energy, whether it's dragon or fairy or either or even Mother Goose, okay? Let's
right?
let's throw her in there, okay? When it comes to a magical practitioner, if you don't have an imagination, you don't do magic.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. Period. Because you need your imagination to take that energy and twist it or bend it or whatever you want to do with it to manifest that into the reality that you want it.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, then you're not a magical practitioner. Period.
Yeah,
End of story.
you've visualization is such a powerful, powerful tool
Right.
for learning, for teaching. You've probably never been to a magical workshop where there wasn't at least one meditation. So, yeah, I mean, I imagined some of my friends have told me they don't remember their dreams, which I think is just a horrible, horrible thing because I love my dreams. But if you are somehow limited in being able to visualize things, I think the only way to fix that is through experience,
Mm-hmm.
and to keep reading and to open yourself to it and tell your allies you're open to it, and cross that threshold.
Right.
It's not an easy journey, no matter what you're trying to work with.
Right.
Fairies, dragons, unicorns, Mother Goose, it doesn't matter. You've got to first embrace that. And
Mm,
over time, and doubt's not just going to go away like that.
right.
Through your experience, your doubt will begin to fade.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason it's called a practice.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I'm a big believer, I'm a big Joseph Campbell fan, and I'm a big believer in the power of myth. And if you go back, and yeah, I love that stuff. If you go back and look at the ancient stories of dragons, they're really fascinating. And I don't mean the ones where, I mean, I guess St. George and the Dragon is kind of that's one you could look at. But if you look more at like Fafnir, in the Norse mythology and his transformation, how he started as a dwarf and then he transformed into a dragon. And when he was about to be slain, he even told the human who was doing it, Sigurd, he was like, "You don't really want to do this. This is not a good thing. I'm telling you right now, you don't want this treasure because it's cursed." And all dragons, even way back then, they're talking to you. Listen, um, the god and goddess, they don't come through my headphones and talk to me on a regular basis or call my iPhone. They communicate with us in very different ways. And it's not always in ritual. Sometimes you just, I mean, my wife is always telling me not everything is a sign, and she's right. Not everything is a sign, but sometimes there are. And you just,
Hmm.
as Saul just said, you got to practice and you got to train yourself to recognize that. And sometimes they whack you upside the head. They're like, okay, she's not getting it. Bam, you know. But if you're patient and if you study the old stories, it will give you a definite platform to at least accept that it's possible.
Right.
Right. Oh, that was a lot.
That was a lot. I told you you get me going on dragons, and I won't shut up. Because
Oh,
you
well,
know what? We need to connect with them. As
hmm
magical practitioners, those of us that feel that calling, um, go ahead. Go ahead. Because I personally think that the dragons, when they find someone that really wants to work with them, um, they're pretty open to it. I mean, they're going to give you the once over. They're not just going to start tossing bones at you, but um, I think the time has come, and I think again, pop culture has had a lot to do with this. Um, the time has come that I think they're willing to listen to us and find those sincere practitioners and start working with us again.
the relationship, once you create that bond, is amazing because you learn so much
Yeah.
and they learn from you.
Yeah,
It's
that
not
too.
just a one-way street.
Right.
And it's one of those things that really cannot be, um words don't cover it,
Right. It's
you
an
know.
experience. It's definitely an experiential thing, which, you know, I've always been taught that that's what our spiritual path is. Whether you're a Wiccan or Druid or, straight up witch or whatever you are, um, it's all about what you experience. It's not, I mean, yeah, you need to read stuff and you need to do this and you need to do that, but there's nothing like getting there and feeling it. And I think that's a crucial part of working with the dragons is it's not just reading a book. It's not just studying the old myths and stories. It's experiencing it in the here and now and allowing that to be what it is, not necessarily your expectation. And that's so hard for humans to let go of. What we want to happen, what we think will happen. Um, Leave just a little bit of room for what you haven't thought about.
Right,
So
right.
both you and Nikki work with dragon energy. You didn't start there.
No.
You had some other path that you were on. So I'm interested as to what difference you see in yourself and your practice from BD before Dragon to where you are now. What did it give you that you didn't know you were missing? Let's start with Nikki actually.
um I say it gave me more empowerment and confidence in myself and in leadership. Um,
Yeah.
the thing about me is dragons have always been around me. They were always my spirit guides or something. And if I really needed help, and I can take this quite literally, they would kind of toss me a bone. because because as most people know on this show, my life is full of true horror stories. I've been through actual horror stories, and I've been in situations in which I should have never survived. And they have literally have helped me. And especially with my magic, it's like I had no idea where to go. Because when we started, the internet did not exist. It was literally a baby back
Yeah.
then.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a couple books, but where I live at, and this is still true to this day, and we are in 2024. Okay. There was one astrology book. It was behind the librarian's seat, and it's in reference, and it's still there.
Yeah.
And that's the only book there.
Yeah.
Can you tell how behind we are,
Yeah.
backwards we are now?
Yep.
So, Ginger, same
And
question to you.
Well, like I said earlier, my first magical path was an Arthurian path. And through that, that's how I got to meet and be friends and now colleagues with John and Caitlin Matthews. And neither of them are dragon practitioners, but it's kind of hard to study and learn and practice the Arthurian path without having a little bit of dragon tossed in there. So that's kind of what got my toes a little bit wet on it. And I realized pretty quickly with a little bit of wet toes how powerful it was. And it's a little bit intimidating for baby witches. I was very much a baby witch at that point. And I knew I wasn't so much worried about hurting myself or hurting my relationship with other spirits, but I didn't want to ruin any chance I might have of working with them when I knew more, you know, when I was a little more experienced at what I was doing. So it took a little while for me to have the courage, I think, to okay, I'm actually going to do a ritual and I'm going to try and call in the dragons and all on my own. I don't have nobody wrote this for me. I wasn't in a book. So it's kind of like, all right, I'm gonna see what's happening, and hopefully I'll come out of this, and I'll still be the same person, and not insane or burned or whatever. Um, so and very much like Nikki just said, what I found from my experience, sitting here today, is empowering myself. I have healthy fears of certain things. I'm not an idiot, but I'm not afraid of things like I used to be. I'm cautious. Um, when you need strength, and I'm sure this is the way with a lot of other energetic allies, it's a boatload of strength. I mean, it's not just, oh, here's a little strength. It's like, shoop, okay, here you go. And then you have to train yourself to absorb that or set it off on the side and take from it when you need it. Um, it's powerful stuff. I have, like I said earlier, a lot of friends who walk the fairy path, the fae path, and they have said very similar things. And I think it's because of the ancient, um, uh, you know, uh, beginnings of these energetic creatures. They've been around a lot longer than we have. They know so much more than we do. And we are such impatient creatures, and we want to know everything, and we want to know it now that you've really got to sit on it and let it come, and it takes years. It took me years. um and I'm still very cautious and respectful of my dragon allies. But you learn to do that, and so I'd say strength and empowerment. I agree with Nikki, that and also being able to I think just walking the path of the goddess helps you do this, but using your eyes to see what really is going on, giving a little bit more information to that gut instinct that you get that everybody's always telling us to listen to. Well, what's it saying? What's it doing? What does it
mhm.
mean? Um, I think my dragon path has made a lot of that more clear to me. So it's kind of like getting a new pair of glasses. You got a little dragon, like Dragon plus 10, and so you get a little bit more vision to it. For me personally, that's how it's worked out.
That's great.
So, where can our people find you?
Well, you can find me on the web, virginiachandler.org. You can find me on Facebook. I think if you search for Virginia Chandler, I gave you the URL. I don't even remember what it is now for the Facebook. But if you search for Virginia Chandler, I think that you'll not too hard to find me. And of course you can get my books. I try to really press in everything that I've had published, especially about dragons, is that everybody's experience is their own. I share my experiences, but that doesn't mean that's what yours are going to be.
Exactly.
Um, and so, give them a try and see what happens.
That's
Nice.
right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute magical conversation.
We'll have to do it again.
Of course.
I'd love to.
All right. So that's all for our show today. So embrace your power, support your community, and keep your fuzzy babies, your family, friends, and yourself safe, and have an absolute magical week.